Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. We are back with yet another session of Underdogs, and we're here with Chris Bonnello, the author of Underdogs Tooth and Nail, that we're going to start reading in a while. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hello. Yeah, things are good. Thanks. I'm trying to think of what happened since last month. The big one being I was invited to be an author at a literary festival, and it's the first time as well. And it's a really good one to start with as well. It was on the Isle of Man. Now,
Oh,
I'm not sure how many Americans know where the Isle of Man is, but picture the island of Great Britain and picture Ireland, and there's a little island in the middle of it called the Isle of Man. And this lovely rural island, everyone's very friendly, and spent half the time there being an author at a literary festival and the other half being a tourist. It was lovely.
that sounds amazing. That sounds really lovely.
Mm.
How was the weather there?
Well, most of England had flooded that week, but weirdly enough, the Isle of Man seemed to have its own kind of ecosystem, so it kind of missed it.
Oh, that's nice. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's very convenient.
Mhm. That sounds
Yeah,
lovely.
a fun little weird fact that I enjoy telling the people on the Isle of Man that this little fact never made it into the actual published series, but in a very early draft of Underdogs 1, this was before I came up with the Clone Factory
Mhm.
plotline. It was about trying to prevent some kind of nuclear strike, and the characters spend the first 2/3 of the book trying to find where in the Citadel the nuclear missiles are stored before discovering that, yeah, this is after they try to stop the launch, they realise they can't, so the best thing they can do is try to disable the actual missiles. And then they're kind of gutted when they find out they actually know that the actual missiles themselves, they're not based in New London. They're on the Isle of Man. So
Oh.
yeah, it didn't make it to the books, but in my own personal headcanon, yes, the Isle of Man has still been turned into a giant nuclear missile silo.
So the fans and the readers there would have been really excited to know that fact. No.
Either that or really annoyed.
Oh no. That makes sense. But at
Now
least
they
now
sort
they know.
of, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm.
cool. That's really cool. Okay, should we start with the session?
Yep.
We can
Quick
start with a
recap.
quick recap.
Yes,
Yes.
because we have now entered final showdown mode. I say final showdown, nearly half the book's left, but yeah, the whole of Tooth and Nail is basically two half stories, most of which are intense action. We've got the Oakenfold half and we've got the New London half, and
Mhm.
the strike team of Ewan, Kate, Alex, and McCormick have now broken into New London Citadel, and they believe until midnight, because midnight is when it becomes the anniversary of Takeover Day, and coincidentally Nicholas Grant's birthday. And it's been indicated that he's going to launch this metal-proof force field, the AME shield, over the Citadel, basically the moment it becomes the anniversary of Takeover Day / his birthday. So what they need to do, now they managed to sneak in, is I think they've got 4 objectives. They need to destroy all the computer files in the system. They need to burn down the paper archive. They need to destroy the experiment chamber where that actually appeared in the prologue. That's where the whole thing was come up with. And finally, they need to destroy. They need to destroy Ian Marshall's computer in his office that he's controlling it from. So yeah, one way or another, they're going to have to reach floor B, which none of them have ever done before. And yeah, now they're on the inside. They've just split up. Ewan and Alex have gone off on their own. They're heading for the computer room to try deleting the files. Kate and McCormick are together. Ewan and McCormick had this very fond / slightly worrying goodbye because it's not. I'll see you in a few days, McCormick. It's like I hope we both end this evening alive. And Kate and McCormick. I can't remember specifically where they're going, but you're going to find out before too long. So here we go. We're ready for chapter 17.
Yes, let's start.
Okay, chapter 17, for anyone who's got their own copy with them, it's page 197. We're taking the lift, said Alex. Seriously? Ewan stood up straight, self-assured and confident. It was all an act and he knew it, but it was what non-autistic people did all the time in moments of self-doubt. We'll be fine, he said. If we were going to get caught, we'd have been caught in the vehicle port when everyone was looking. Besides, it's 8:30. Time's a factor here. The lift arrived and Ewan marched inside. As Alex joined him, he pressed the button for floor F, the highest available button, and the floor where their first targets lay. Ewan could not be bothered to work out how many floors lay between floor F and X, but Ewan's heart was thrown into his stomach. After a year without using an elevator, he was unprepared for the seasickness when the lift rose at the speed of an accelerating car. To his side, Alex gripped the side rail with tightening fingers. 20 seconds later, the lift slowed to a halt as if a driver had slammed on the brakes. The two young men, supposedly toughened through a year of battle, glanced at one another and shared a nervous laugh. Oh yeah, just for the avoidance of doubt, the lifts only go up to floor F because after floor F, there are like one at a time stairwells, like a stairwell from floor F to E, one from E to D, and so on up to floor A. And clones aren't generally allowed above floor F unless it's something really specific they've been ordered to go up there for. They don't even have the key cards for it. So yeah, you've probably worked out this won't be a case of just killing a clone, taking their key card and running all the way up to floor B. They fell silent as the door slid open. It was time to become clones again. Oh yeah, they're wearing clone uniforms and pretending to be clones. Alex doesn't have to pretend very hard. The central research headquarters was a 15-minute walk from the lift, with the outer city monorail several floors away. But the walk was anything but boring. Ewan had to stop his eyes from widening as he gazed at his fancy surroundings, a world apart from the bland yet haunting atmosphere of the lower floors. Floor F looked like a serious attempt at a laboratory complex. The walls had white paint, and the floor was textured with the flat patterned material found on the hospital wards of old. There were metal labels on every door, from security offices to store cupboards, and the whole atmosphere had an air of quality. Ewan had not felt so amazed at man-made beauty since his brief visit to the officers' sector 3 weeks earlier, in Book 1. It's not the beauty I remember about that visit, though, he thought, with Charlie on his mind. Wait, Alex was on floor F for that same mission, at the clone factory. Why is he looking as fascinated as me? Alex, Jack, and Kate had all seen floor F, but none of them had told Ewan what it looked like. It's been a minor detail compared to everything else that had happened that week. But Alex's face, as much as he tried to disguise it and as difficult as Ewan found it to read, suggested he was seeing it for the first time. Do you even remember this place? At the end of their 15-minute journey, there was no mistaking the door to the Central Research Headquarters. Oh yeah, I don't think it discusses it much further. Actually, yeah, it does, like in a couple of pages. But Alex is missing some of his memories, and they're not quite sure why. Something was clearly done to him, but they don't know, which is probably terrifying for him, really.
It is.
The setup of the surrounding area. Go on.
I'm just saying we'll find out soon, right?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
The setup of the surrounding area had based itself around that one chamber, octagonal, wide, and placed mid-crossroads between 4 approaching corridors. Ewan walked to the windowless entrance and swiped Arnold Salter's keycard through the slot. When the LED flickered from red to green, he pushed through the door looking as unexcited as he could. Arnold Salter being the guy who they basically stole the keycard off and sent on his way, saying, yeah, well, you're going to be killed because you didn't stop us, so at least get out of New London and try and just live your life in peace in the countryside. Meanwhile, they'd got his keycard. The chamber's interior looked just as he had predicted. Its walls were lined with computer desks and monitors, and air conditioning units rumbled loudly on the ceiling, and a trolley of spare laptops lay by the door. A security camera hung from one of the top corners. However, Ewan had not imagined he and Alex would be the room's only occupants. Empty, he whispered, his lips facing away from the security camera. The Central Research Headquarters can't really be unattended. As Ewan glanced around the room, Alex walked to the computer furthest to their left. There were no blind spots in the octagonal chamber, but he picked a chair that would face away from the lens of the spying CCTV camera. Why not? Alex answered. The AME project is complete now. How much else do you think they need to do here? Ewan followed his teammate to the furthest edge of the room and sat himself at the neighbouring computer. It gave him access to every delicious scrap of information that an underdog could want to get their hands on. He just needed to locate them. Fair enough, he answered, looking for the research files now. You do that. I've got something personal to search for. Ewan shot Alex a surprising glance. Personal? Like your dad or something? Yeah, said Alex with blatant sarcasm. My taekwondo coach stuck down in New Brighton prison, who they're definitely keeping an eye on because he's such a fascinating guy. No, you numpty. I've got missing memories to find. Ewan felt a little pool of rage bubbling up inside him at Alex's insults, but he took a deep breath and composed himself. The insults must have been based on hurt, and he knew better than to take things personally when they were said by a teammate going through a rough time. For a moment, Ewan wondered whether those thoughts were truly his own, or planted there by his experiences among other Oakenfold students, or even by McCormick during his year of positive influence. Then, without his permission, his fingers twitched and he slammed a hand on the table. You okay there? Asked Alex. Not exactly. Worried about the old man? Yeah. Ewan opened the first of many folders he was set to search through, and found himself like lost like a child in a busy shopping centre. He would not be finished in a hurry. It's not like the other missions, he continued to Alex, if only for the sake of expressing his thoughts out loud. Every mission for the last year, all I've needed to do was to see him again is avoid dying and get back to Spitfire's Rise. But when I said goodbye to him tonight, it hit me. He's in danger here. I could do everything right tonight, complete this mission and head home unscathed, and still never see him again. Alex took a break from his own search and looked towards Ewan, although the camera prevented him from turning far enough to make his lips visible. Kate will look after him, he said in a rare, compassionate voice. And if he goes off on his own, he won't do anything stupid. You sure about that? He knows what's at stake. Well, let's be frank. If he were to do something to put himself in danger, it wouldn't be out of stupidity. It would be for something worth putting himself in danger for. He's an adult. A real adult, I mean. And a mathematician, too. He doesn't have the reckless, impulsive side that the rest of us have. He's too calculating for it. He's right, I guess, Ewan thought. The two of us are at far more risk than him. If death is coming for anyone tonight, it's me or Alex. Ewan blinked himself back to his senses. The AME research was somewhere in front of him to be found and deleted, and it was time to regain focus. Once it did, it didn't take him long to realise that even once he found the data, deleting it would not be simple. He would need special clearance or admin access or something. There was only one person he knew who had experienced Nicholas Grant's technology from the inside, and thankfully, she was sitting in comms at that moment. The sound of her voice would be welcome too. Ewan removed his phone from his pocket, lay it at the front of his desk, and put it on speakerphone before dialing. Wow, subtle, said Alex as it started to ring. Shall I put it next to my ear for the CCTV cameras? Ewan asked with matching sarcasm, and tell them a mute soldier is talking on the phone. Hello? Interrupted a voice on the desk. Shannon, it's Ewan. Don't worry, everything's fine. But I need to ask you something. Ewan's voice began to waver. Discussing Shannon's ex-boyfriend would have been tricky in the normal world too, but especially so now since the guy was dead and the conversation was time-sensitive. This contains some references to Book 1. You know how you and Anthony Lambourne did all that tech work with the Clone Factory virus? He asked. Does that mean Lambourne had access to important files? Yeah, why? Because I think I need clearance to delete... Really? Said Alex. You don't think they might have deleted Lambourne's account after slashing his throat? Oh, bloody hell, Alex. Shannon's right here listening. I don't think he'd been stupid enough to use his own account, Ewan answered. I just need to know... You're right, came Shannon's voice. Annoyed, hurt, but fiercely determined. A voice infused with her unmistakable personality. Whenever we did something that broke the rules, we used Richard Unsworth's account. Who the hell's Richard Unsworth? One of Pierce's underlings. High enough to have access to loads of stuff, but not high enough for people to bother checking where he was logged in. Let me know when you have the login screen up. Ewan clicked a box in the corner of the screen. Yep, ready. Username is Richard.Unsworth. Password, all in capitals, is KRB... 1 second, let me process it. Oh, yeah, sorry. Ewan's mind was drawn back to Luton Retail Centre in Chapter 2, and his outburst at Shannon after she had said the GPS coordinates too fast. It seemed so long ago now. At that moment, he found himself being much more patient with her. Being that far apart, he wanted every word between them to be pleasant. Ready? She asked. KRB? Yeah, KRB 4H97DW1. After we found it out, Lamborn made me memorise it in case we ever got caught. Ewan pressed the OK button and the computer accepted the password. Okay, logged in as him. Thanks a lot. And I'm sorry I brought up your ex. He'd have wanted you to do this. Trust me. Fair enough. You doing all right? I'm fine. Lorraine is too. Stay safe, Ewan. Yeah, well, take care. Bye. Ewan hung up the phone and took a long breath. That wasn't a moment, was it? Alex asked at his side. Ewan wasn't sure whether it was a real observation or just general Alex mockery, so he didn't bother with a response. Oh yeah, technically Ewan and Shannon's relationship is still secret. Well, technically. Alex certainly hasn't worked it out until now.
Got it.
Yeah. He put his phone back in his pocket, as subtly as he could with the CCTV camera watching, and got to work as Richard Unsworth. The folders had odd labels, mostly named after dates, odd scientific terminology, or staff members. They probably made sense to science-minded people, but not to Ewan. He performed a database search for the phrase atmospheric metallurgic excitation, grateful to himself that he'd managed to memorize the words, and hoped for the best. The search yielded disappointing results. Ewan clicked the only file with a decipherable title and found the central report into the development of AME. It was a 10-page summary of the entire project from beginning to end. Not useful in the scheme of things, but it was his best starting point. The entrance door swung open without warning. Ewan's instincts told him to pounce forward and retrieve his assault rifle from the desk, but Alex remained quiet and kept working as if nothing was unusual. Ewan noticed his friend's strategy just in time and got back to work as the 5 clone soldiers marched inside. Ignorant of the humans in their lair, they occupied 1 computer terminal each and started clicking away. Ewan would never know what the group cared about so much that it took all 5 of them to work on it, but their work was not his priority, just as long as none of them peeked over his shoulder. 10 minutes passed in the crowded room. 9 o'clock on May 19th. Ewan had been the worst student in his drama class, with the sole exception of Jack, who had never known how to act like anyone but himself, or perhaps a range of dinosaurs as a child. But he and Alex were doing a good enough job of pretending to be clones. Good enough to still be alive, anyway. The 10-page report had been the first stepping stone in a digital paper trail, which had led him to the correct region of Grant's information atlas. The summary report had contained the name of one particular human scientist, Richard Unsworth, curiously enough, who had been tasked with collecting and analysing the research. Nathaniel Pierce had been the primary researcher, and the man who had watched the explosions and blood fireworks. But Unsworth had dealt with the boring paperwork side of his abhorrent experiments. Unsworth's personal section held enough files and subfolders to fill an average civilian's computer, but Ewan felt he was close to the needle in his data haystack. He had narrowed his search down to 3 folders, all of which were labelled with nerdy sciencey names that sounded too clever for him. The clone 2 desks away moved and the back of his head twitched. Ewan almost leapt to his feet, but calmed himself when he discovered that the clone had only stood up to stretch. Ewan was closer to Grant's bedroom in the brain of New London than ever before, and his nerves were showing. He got another shock a moment later when the printer behind him pierced the silence of the chamber. Zip whir, zip whir, zip whir. Alex stood up from his seat and walked to the back of the room. Ewan shook his head as discreetly as he could. While he was stuck in his seat, drawing as little attention to himself as possible, Alex had no problem walking across the room full of clones towards the noisiest object in the chamber. But is that confidence or desperation? If I had gaps in my memory, I'd probably throw caution to the wind too. Whatever caution to the wind is supposed to mean. Wait, did I just find what I'm looking for? Inside the penultimate folder of his search lay an average scientist's lifetime of work and the bulk of Pierce's research over the last 6 months, from the opening preamble and theoretical principles through 1,000 spreadsheets of experimental data to the final preparations for coordinate tracing and mapping. Ewan didn't understand a word, but he knew it all needed deleting. Pierce and Unsworth had proved that even the world's cleverest scientists were not always smart people. They'd made the same mistake that the Oakenfold staff had once had with their students' behavioural records, and kept all their files in one place to be found and destroyed by the first rogue teenager who had the chance. 2 other clones rose to their feet. Ewan moved his eyes and noticed that the stretching clone had not sat down again. He highlighted every file in the magic folder and planted his forefinger on the delete button. His heart skipped a beat, then his actions were met with the most annoying safety net in human history, the double-checking dialogue box. Are you sure you want to delete the selected items? No, I'm joking, numpty. Before he could press enter, Alex laid his papers down on the desk and pinched him on the arm. A pinch. It was an odd way of getting his attention. Ewan turned to find Alex pointing his eyes towards a neighbouring computer screen. As a fourth clone stood up, Ewan kept his head still but moved his eyes and read the alert message that had caught Alex's attention. In capitals, red alert for urgent attention of soldiers in the Central Research Headquarters. The occupants of stations 3 and 4 are, underlined, highly dangerous, armed insurgents and must be neutralised immediately. A discreet surround and shoot method is advised. Do not make them aware of an attack until you have shot them dead. Marshall. The last clone rose to his feet. Ewan stopped breathing. End of chapter 17. I like that one, but I also like the next chapter.
That was an exciting end to the chapter.
I think one of the main reasons I ended the chapter there is because, spoilers, chapter 18 is immediately what happens next. But I think together the two chapters would have been too long. And also, I wanted 28 chapters. Every book has 28 chapters, except for the final one, which has 30. Well, plus.
Is there a reason for that, or
just neatness? It started off as coincidence, and then it ended up being just. I like it. I liked it. Uprising originally had 28 chapters, but I'm sure one day when I read it to you, I'll explain to you where the other 2 chapters came from, because there was a specific reason why it needed 2 specific more chapters.
The extra chapters. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and it's also the only book in the series to have an epilogue as well. Books 2, 3, and 4 all have. So when you think about it, they don't really all have 28 chapters. The first one does. This one has 29. Acceleration has 29, and Uprising has 32. But 28 numbered chapters anyway. But I digress.
Yeah. Steph saying OMG. Yes. Same reaction.
Thank you. Are you ready for chapter 18?
Yes.
Sure you don't want to wait for next month? Okay, here we go.
No. We need this right now.
Chapter 18. We can't defend ourselves with bullets. If a gun goes off, every clone within half a mile will head this way. There wasn't even a split second to hit the enter key before Alex tore his knife from its sheath, spun around at the nearest body, and ripped the blade across its throat. The stunned clone had not even touched his holstered weapon before the shock took over his body and sent him to the floor. Ewan was so quick to jump to his feet that his brain had not quite realised what was happening, and for the opening seconds of combat, it felt like someone else was controlling him. He gripped his assault rifle in both hands and picked out his first opponent, as it raised its own rifle to fire. He leapt forwards to within whispering distance of his target and killed with one blow for the first time in his life. He swung the butt of his rifle upwards to the clone's nose, sending bone fragments into his brain, and the open-eyed dead soldier fell backwards into the arms of his ally behind him. The unexpected body was enough of a distraction to allow Ewan to leap again and attempt the same trick twice, but he was faced with the largest clone model in Grant's army, and an enemy who saw what was coming. The clone's dodge put Ewan off balance, and a knee thundered into the bony part of his thigh. Ewan staggered in pain, for a moment not even realising that his assault rifle had fallen from his hands. The large clone threw his dead ally's body away from him, but could not aim his rifle before Ewan's clawing hand snatched out for it. Ewan was losing the wrestle. The clone's hands were stronger, and had a much more secure grip on the weapon. Desperate, Ewan looked to the other side of the room to call out to Alex, but his teammate had problems of his own. Alex was up against both the other surviving clones, keeping them in single file ahead of him like a hostile game of piggy in the middle. The soldier in front of him had a chance to fire his handgun, but when Alex seized the barrel and twisted the muzzle towards the clone's own chest, his enemy decided it wasn't such a good idea. Alex raised one of his hands from the gun, the hand which still held the knight, and plunged it into the centre of the clone's chest. A punch to Ewan's cheek knocked out his sense of direction, and he drew his gaze away from Alex. He kept both his hands in a tight grip on his rifle, but his huge enemy lifted it upwards. Unwilling to let go, Ewan's feet were separated from the floor, and the clone charged across the chamber and rammed the base of his spine against the computer desk. Ewan let out a yelp, his back muscles screaming at him as the top half of his body was stretched across the desk. His own weapon lay half a room away, beyond the focus of his blurred vision. The clone's rifle was the only firearm within reach, but he released one of his hands from it anyway. With 2 hands against one, the clone seized his chance and jumped backwards. The rifle was torn from Ewan's one-handed grip, but the clone was too horrified to open fire. He had seen what Ewan had done with his spare hand. His forefinger had reached over to the keyboard beneath it and smashed onto the enter key. He had just said yes to the dialogue box. Ewan did not see the screen as the entirety of Pierce's AME research began to disappear into nothingness, but the look on the clone's face told him everything. The distraction was all Ewan needed as he pounced forward, grabbed the giant's shoulders in both hands and sent both knees into his stomach, the force of his body weight forcing the clone backwards until he tripped over the body of his partner. Ewan held on for dear life, as if to a falling tree, as the clone tumbled to the floor and landed on his back. The shock was enough for the clone to release his grip, and Ewan seized the assault rifle from his hands and smashed the butt repeatedly into his face. After the fifth strike, the clone stopped moving. Dizzy and in pain, Ewan hopped to his feet to see Alex and the final clone wrestling over a handgun. The clone's sweaty fingers crept towards the trigger, his plan obvious. It would not matter where the bullet went. It would be a distress signal to every clone within half a mile of the chamber. Ewan staggered into position behind the clone, secured both hands around his victim's head, and snapped his neck. The Central Research Headquarters fell into silence as the fifth and final body collapsed to the floor. For the first time since his work had been interrupted, Ewan took a glance around. In what must have been under a minute, the scene had changed from 7 uniformed men working at computer desks to 2 men standing among a collection of dead bodies on the blooded floor. Alex rested a hand against the nearest desk and gasped a sentence. 5 kills, no bullets, no scratches, he said. Speak for yourself, Ewan grunted. My leg and back are, whatever, you win, mate. 3-2. Lucky boy. It's never luck. Alex's laugh came with a wheezy cough. Never luck? Good job one of us saw the alert before they could open fire. Ewan ignored Alex's compliment fishing and manned back to his workstation. The progress bar had barely travelled across the screen. Perhaps a quarter of the files had been deleted, maybe fewer. To the left of the entrance, a telephone started to ring. Ewan's eyes perked. The sight of a landline phone was rare enough, but the timing couldn't possibly have been a coincidence. So, are we answering it? Asked Alex. I mean, Marshall knows we're here anyway. Well volunteered, Alex. Alex rolled his eyes, stumbled over to the entrance and picked up the headset. McCormick & Sons Family Butchers. Good quality meat carving since year 0. How can I help? Alex fell silent for a couple of seconds, rolled his eyes again, and held out the phone towards Ewan. He wants you, not me. Story of my life. Who is it? Ian Marshall. Ewan gritted his teeth and cast a frown towards the CCTV camera above him. Thank you, Steph. He took the phone from Alex and began to snarl. I'm listening. Ewan West, I believe, said the voice. I'm listening. Can't just say how much I love the conversation you're about to hear. No action, but I just love the verbal sparring they do. I'm listening. Good. My name's Ian Marshall, head of military division. I'm guessing you've heard of me? Actually, yeah, Ewan said with a grin towards the camera. You used to be important before Nicholas Grant took your security company from you, but he decided to keep you instead of killing you. For a failed businessman, you've done fairly well for yourself. Alex sprinted to fetch his assault rifle and stood guard against the door. More clones have been called, and all 3 of us know it. But we can't leave before the file's finished deleting. One push of a button could cancel all our work. You've done fairly well too, answered Marshall, leading the charge against an innumerable army in the face of autism, pathological demand avoidance, intense behavioural issues, exclusion from 6 different schools, and just generally being a twat. Oh, so you've read up on me? Oh, I'm so scared. Yes, I have. You look a lot different to the passport photo I've been looking at. Yeah, well, I was a lot sexier back then. War does horrible things to people, doesn't it? Ewan glanced at the screen. Halfway done. So, he continued, did you call to talk about something? Or are you just keeping us here long enough for reinforcements to arrive? In fact, if you knew we were up here, why didn't you kill us 10 minutes ago? You left 2 rats chewing at your computer wires for ages. Having a great time rummaging through onto us things. Because of a little incident we just had at a checkpoint near Vehicle Port 3. Does the name Arnold Salter ring any bells? Alex's eyes widened too. Clearly, Marshall spoke so enthusiastically that his voice could be heard across the room. 20 minutes ago, I received an alert that the Vehicle Port's deployment director was seen trying to leave New London. He got as far as the security booth at the electric fence, but was unable to provide any reason for his departure, or even identification. One of the guards called his line manager, and Salter tried to speed away. Of course, the armed guards didn't let him get far. Poor guy, thought Ewan. The vomiting wonder barely lasted a minute outside New London. Good job he was on their side and not ours. After a little research, Marshall finished, it turned out he'd used his keycard to check himself into the Central Research Headquarters at exactly the same time as he was abandoning his post. It didn't take a genius. Ewan let out a huff, which must have sounded down the phone. Frustrated? Asked Marshall. Then you're going to hate this next bit. Because I have to ask, How exactly are you planning on destroying everything related to atmospheric metallurgic excitation in the whole citadel, fight your way up to floor B and destroy my computer, all in the space of half an hour? Ewan checked his watch. Midnight was about 3 hours away. What the hell was Marshall talking about? Half an hour, he asked. Give or take, Marshall answered. You thought we would launch at midnight, didn't you? Some heavy object froze inside Ewan, restricting his muscles and paralysing his chest. It's the kind of thing Grant would do, he whispered, unable to hide his nerves. Wrong, Ewan. It's the kind of thing he'd want you to believe he'd do, what his daughter would believe he'd do, and what she'd tell her allies. In reality, there's weapons cache in Beaconsfield that needs emptying, and a steady stream of transports are bringing the stock back here. Grant's switching the shield on as soon as the last vehicle makes it past the border, and they've been given a deadline of 9:30. He's had countdowns to 9:30 on his office walls and everything. And once the countdown ended, he was going to launch the shield, deliberately reduce security, and watch you walk straight through, with all your metal weapons, ammo, watches, belts, and so on. You would have looked spectacular as you'd blown up like your other friend. Oh, I miss Raj. Ewan's fingers began to twiddle with the phone cord for whatever anxiety relief it would bring. The game had changed, without warning or mercy. Everything had changed. Marshall's computer destroyed by 9:30. He and his friends had never even been to floor B. A 30-minute time limit wasn't enough. It was lunacy. Why are you telling us? He asked in a meek whisper. Because I'd rather you knew. You're far more likely to lose a gunfight if you know you've already lost the war. Psychological warfare, Ewan. Now I've put that knowledge inside your head, it's going to stay there, bouncing around in your little thick skull. If the Taliban had used that kind of genius against Major George West, Ewan's dad, they might have actually won and you'd never have been born. They'd have improved the world in one way at least. Did you ever fight the Taliban? Ewan spat, the mention of his father restoring some of his energy. They were smarter than the cavemen everyone thought they were. Dad told me the stories. I grew up with them. Afghanistan was a playground, Ewan. You think that barren, mountainous country is hard work? Try selling anti-tank rockets to 2 West African militia leaders, each of whom is trying to commit genocide against the other. Money and firearms are all you have, and they're all your clients care about. Have you ever looked into the eyes of an ally who values the clip of bullets in your hand more than he values you? Well, maybe you're just crap at making friends. Ewan glanced to the computer once more. Only a fraction of the data remained. The promise of progress both energized him and frightened him. According to Alex's face, Ewan was not alone in his stress. That's fine talk coming from you, said Marshall. Your father may have been a decent soldier, but he couldn't turn you into a decent person. The phone trembled in Alex's hands, not through fear, but anger. My dad was more than a decent soldier. He was everything to me. And now he's a decomposed skeleton scattered across your living room floor, along with your useless mum, and your aunt and your uncle and 8-year-old Alfie. Still, it was nice that we kept the whole family in one place after we killed them. Not the whole family, answered Ewan. You should have killed one more. Oh dear, we missed the retard. Yeah, and don't you regret it now? He turned around, expecting Alex to be grinning. Instead, he was worried. Only for the next few minutes, said Marshall, because that's the thing with rats who chew at computer wires. They're too stupid to know that when they've spent too much time chewing, one flash later, they're dead. Ewan heard running footsteps. Any last words I can pass on to Grant? Asked Marshall with a laugh. Yeah, said Ewan with his eyes pointed at the CCTV camera. Tell him his daughter's a great kisser. Ewan hung up the phone, grabbed his assault rifle, and ran to the nearest clone's body. He plucked the keycard from his pocket, assuming Salters to have been deactivated. Then he ran to the computer screen. So close. So close. A great kisser? Said Alex. Seriously? I shouldn't have said that. It was disrespectful to talk about it that way. You mean you and Shannon, when we leave, Ewan interrupted, we split up. Whichever one of us reaches the experiment chamber first, burn it to the ground. A dozen pairs of footsteps grew closer. The progress bar vanished, replaced with the shape of a little green tick. Half an hour to bring down an empire, starting right now. Go! He screamed at Alex, who picked up his printed papers and charged for the exit. The 2 underdogs fled the central research headquarters like murderers from a crime scene, with 5 clone bodies in their wake. We don't stand a chance, he thought. But I'm fighting anyway. We didn't survive the last year by respecting the odds. End of chapter 18.
This was really something. I loved the conversation between Marshall and Ewan. It was
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was really like I was trying to find a way to react to the conversation, just like how you usually do on WhatsApp and Instagram and social media.
Yeah.
But like I couldn't really do that. But yeah, it was really fun to read through.
Thank you. Yeah, it was fun to write. I also kind of like the fact that the first half of that chapter is well. First off, I do like the fact that I managed to write a fight scene 2 against 5 where the 2 win without a single bullet. But actually, that's not even the main highlight of the chapter. I think the thing I like most about the chapter is the second half, where it's Ewan sparring against Marshall.
Yes. And also 30 minutes. That's just,
It's impossible, isn't it?
it feels impossible, but I have really high hopes.
Right. Okay. Because Wednesday's my cooking night, I need to pop out, put the rice on, and I'll be back in hopefully under 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Perfect. Yes, that's okay.
Can I just say that was way less than a minute?
Pause. Yes.
Okay, right. You ready for chapter 19?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
Will we be able to find out what happens? Like, would the 30 minutes be over within this chapter, or is there more?
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. I'm still
Right.
looking forward to find out.
Yeah, Steph's asking if it's a bit
That's,
late for dinner. Well, ordinarily, yes, but not when you're doing a book reading for people predominantly in Texas.
well, we're really grateful for you for that.
Oh, yeah, no problem. It's fun. Okay, chapter 19. Kate's night had been boring. Under normal circumstances, boring missions were good. Less action meant fewer people got hurt. But not tonight. Things needed to happen tonight. She understood why McCormick insisted on walking up the stairwell rather than running, but she felt like a child wanting to run towards an ice cream van tethered to a grandparent who couldn't run alongside her. She stood at the exit to floor S, her handgun pointed towards the door handle just in case. After a short while, McCormick arrived behind her, and it was time for his next mission, ascending the steps to floor R. Will we even reach floor B by midnight? Alongside her annoyance, Kate couldn't help but feel enormous admiration. McCormick clung hard to his forced habit of never, ever losing hope, and his attitude towards each set of stairs never worsened or became less enthusiastic. Kate ran up to floor R and guarded the exit as before. When McCormick was halfway up, Ewan's voice screamed out of her waist pocket. Guys, big trouble! McCormick took the shouting as an excuse to rest against the wall and caught some breath as he retrieved his radio. Talk to me, Ewan. We don't have until midnight. Grant's pushing the button at 9:30. The panic in Ewan's voice spread to Kate like an airborne disease, and her body froze in place. Do you have any evidence for this? Asked McCormick from half a floor below. The words of Ian Marshall himself. The shield was supposed to kill us when we arrived, but we got inside before the last transport vehicles made it from some weapons cache somewhere. Unless we can do everything in the next 30 minutes, Grant's going to win the war. There'll be no way for us to get out or for the others to break in with weapons ever again. Kate commanded her body to stop panicking, but it wouldn't obey. Her brain was congested with so many thoughts that she couldn't pin down a single one. Looks like we're doing it in half an hour then, said McCormick, having ascended the stairs and rested next to her. How's it looking on your floor? Partway there, answered Ewan between gasps. We wiped out the files and we're heading to the experiment chamber. But they know we're here. Salter's dead. What about down there? We're on floor R, answered McCormick. The right place for the paper archive and 2 floors away from the backup servers. Leave it to us. You and Alex. Well, hold on. Oh, there were 5 things. I forgot about the backup servers. So there's the Central Research Headquarters, which is gone. There's the experiment chamber, which Ewan's heading to. There's the paper archive, and there's the backup servers, because obviously all their research isn't just going to be just in one place. There's going to be a backup server. And then there's Ian Marshall's office. Leave it to us. You and Alex destroy that chamber and fight your way to floor B. Yeah, nice and simple, said Ewan. See you later, sir. The radio fell silent as Ewan resumed his sprinting. Kate's eyes sank to the floor as the enormity of their task settled in their brain. 5 objectives, and we've still got 4 left. Destroy the experiment chamber, destroy their backup system, destroy the paper archive, destroy Marshall's computer. All in 30 minutes. I'll phone comms and ask for directions, McCormick said, his breath mostly steadied. You go for the archive. I'll go for the backup service. Actually, said Kate with a quiver in her voice, I've got a better idea. Years of experience told her that she had done the wrong thing by speaking out, and should prepare for her opinions to be corrected. She knew that McCormick was an approachable adult, but her instincts had been burnt into her brain by countless adults and peers who had loved telling her she was wrong. To her relief, McCormick listened. Those battlements on the roof, she continued, where the snipers hide to watch over the countryside. Is it just me, or are there lower battlements too? Floor L, if I remember rightly. I can buy us some time. I'll go to Floor L, you go for the paper archive, and whoever finishes first goes for the data servers. Even then, it'll only work if you and Alex reach Floor B, but it's our best shot. Sounds good, said McCormick as he fumbled around in his pocket for his phone and battery. For the first time since they had started their climb, there was a moment of silence in the stairwell. No need to wait, said McCormick. I'll radio you any directions you need. Sir, she answered, I'm not going to start running without a goodbye. Then say it quickly. I enjoy your company, but time's not on our side. Kate marched across to McCormick and demanded his eye contact. Painful as it was, and McCormick would know how painful she found it, the eye contact was worth it to make her point. Be careful, she said, in the most commanding voice she dared use. The rest of the underdogs will slaughter me if they find out I left you alone. If you get caught or killed while I'm away, I'm taking it personally. No, you will not take it personally, McCormick said in his calmest voice. I don't want anything clouding your judgment tonight. Kate stared at him, open-jawed, as he powered up his phone. You don't really think it's that simple, do you? She thought. She began to quicken her breaths, the expression in her face a dangerous cocktail of protective love and anger. I know your week's been horrible, Kate, McCormick said to her, and I'm not going to try telling you to get over it. But if there's one thing on earth that Kate Arrowsmith is good at, it's facing her fears. Without your anxiety, you wouldn't be half as brave as you are. And all you need to do tonight is use the bravery you've always had, and that includes overriding whatever fears you have about me. A stray tear fell from Kate's eye. McCormick smiled and laid a hand on her shoulder. Run upstairs and buy the boys their extra time. If you need a hand, I'll give you a shout. Kate nodded. No words came to her. She turned and ran up the stairs towards Floor L as McCormick began to dial. One floor up, she stopped to eavesdrop on her leader's conversation. Lorraine, it's me, McCormick began, followed by a brief pause. Yeah, not bad. I'm on Floor R and can find my way to the paper archives. Have you got directions to the data servers yet? There was a brief silence. Kate could not hear Lorraine's words, but they were easy to work out. Nothing's beyond my reach. Not tonight. I don't like the sound of this. No, not even the HPFC. Tell me where to go. Kate gasped, hopefully not loud enough for McCormick to hear. She had not heard the high-priority functional cluster even mentioned through most of the war, and there was a good reason for that. But time was running out, and Floor L was high above. With gritted teeth and a sense of powerlessness over McCormick, Kate looked up the stairwell and ran. Okay, that's not the end of the chapter. It's a paragraph break and I'm taking a drink. Here we go. As far as Ewan could tell, his sense of direction not let him down. Distractions were everywhere, but he was pretty sure his route was the correct one. The biggest clue was that the clone patrols were getting heavier. Ewan thought it might have been the perfect opportunity for them to blow him apart with speed mines, but clearly they didn't want to damage any rooms important enough to be on Floor F. He took a peek around the next corner and was spotted by 6 bi-rifle soldiers. Bringing in the big guns now, literally. Marshall wants me to run out of ammo. He's using the soldiers with weapons built into their arms, guns I can't steal once they're dead. You may remember from the end of Book 1. His first spray of bullets took down 4 of the soldiers. Despite their advanced weaponry, the remaining 2 did not last much longer. Ewan double-checked the corridor and ran over to the bodies, and found that some of their other weapons could be stolen. By far the most interesting weapon was the belt of incendiary grenades. 4 of them. Ewan grinned. He couldn't have asked for a more suitable weapon to bring to the experiment chamber. He seized the whole belt for himself, and astonishingly found the room he was looking for 3 doors later. About time we had something good thrown our way. Right, let's do this. He used the seized keycard against the door, and it worked. He wouldn't have long until someone noticed a dead clone checking into the experiment chamber, but 15 minutes between check-ins would be more than enough. Come to think of it, Ewan was surprised they hadn't locked down the chamber altogether, but it had been out of action since the research was completed, and would never be needed again unless all their research mysteriously vanished. Ewan walked inside. The experiment chamber was far from what he had expected. You may need to jog your memory about what it looked like in the prologue, because this is literally the same room. He found himself in a small caravan-sized control room with computers, lined with computers, swivel chairs, microphones, and telephones, bordered by a wall of glass that separated him from the main body of the chamber. Small adhesive signs had been stuck to the corners of every glass panel reading, "Danger, no metal or metallic products inside the chamber." Beyond the glass, the chamber contained very little, just a large pile of metallic objects in one corner that included weights, empty weapons, and clothing with metal attachments. Meanwhile, its tiled floor had been half cleaned of powdery bloodstains, clone blood that had come to rest between two stone pillars, the clone that ran through the pillars in the prologue. Ewan checked the porthole-shaped window on the door. No sign of Alex approaching. He hoped his teammate was okay, wherever he was, or at least alive. "Alex," he whispered into his radio. "Updates?" Silence. "Alex." "Still far away," came Alex's voice, tired and gasping. "Got chased the wrong way down the corridor by a load of bi-rifles." "Okay," answered Ewan. "I'm here now, so no worries. Head to the nearest stairwell and get as close to floor B as you can. I'll meet you up there." "Got it." The radio went silent. Ewan was on his own, but the work could easily be done alone. And it started with making sure he was in the right place. He looked back at the desk, trying to guess the uses of the several dozen buttons and levers across the control panel. The red button next to the microphone was obvious, and the palm-sized button on the wall labelled "Kill Switch" must have been there to stop experiments before someone important got killed. The dial at the far right seemed to control the lighting for some reason, and for all he knew, the brown lever delivered fresh coffee or something. There was another red button, protected beneath a translucent panel of plastic so nobody would use it by accident. Ewan's instincts, fueled by a whole childhood of toying with everything that looked interesting, compelled him to push it. When he did, there was a brightly coloured burst of light on the other side of the glass, like a red camera flash. Ewan looked up and lost his breath. Between the stone pillars, he saw the same type of shield his team had watched light up the skies around Harpenden, the same type of shield that had surrounded Oakenfold and killed Raj. He stared in hatred at the crimson waves that flowed between the pillars like vertical water, and the little lightning bolts that leapt out from the metal border points, or whatever Raj had called them before he killed himself. After a brief squall of excitement, the shield faded into invisibility. Ewan could barely feel the organs inside his chest. Adolf Hitler atomic, not automatic. Adolf Hitler with atomic weapons would have been less dangerous than a dictator with this technology. If Grant had his way, the same kind of shield would surround the whole of New London, and in time his other citadels too, rendering him invincible forever. Ewan reached for his assault rifle. He released a flurry of bullets into the glass wall. The glass did not shatter, and the bullets only produced a couple of spiderweb-shaped cracks. Clearly the chamber's glass was bulletproof. Bullet resistant, not bulletproof, Ewan corrected himself. No glass is perfectly bulletproof. You just have to get creative. Ewan put his brain into gear. When it came to non-academic tasks, his brain was a formidable weapon. At that moment, it was remembering a school trip to the Roman walls at St. Albans, back when he had been allowed on mainstream school trips. The tour guide had shown him a legionary's sword, a gladius, if he remembered right. Which, fun fact, this is based on something that I learned on a school trip. I was an adult with a class of year sixes, and that was actually in Chester rather than St. Albans, but I memorised it and put it into a book. The tour guide had shown him a legionary's sword, a gladius, if he remembered right, which had a little steel stub at the end of the handle. It was for braining enemies who got too close by thumping the handle onto their head where the tiny stub would crack through their skull. The full force of a Roman's arm would be concentrated into a square centimetre, and the results would be devastating. The glass could be broken. Ewan just needed a gladius. The butt of his rifle made a fine handle, with a flat enough surface to attach some kind of stub. He reached to the corner of the nearest window pane and peeled off the adhesive warning sticker, rolled it backwards over itself to make it sticky on both sides, and placed it across the rifle butt. On the desk at his side, some smart-ass scientist had left his coffee mug behind. One that literally read, "Smart-ass and proud of it." Yep, that's the coffee mug that Nathaniel Pierce was using in the prologue, "Smart-ass and proud of it." In fact, I'm not actually aware of those existing. I need to start selling those because they probably sell moderately well. But I digress.
Would. I think they would, yes.
Mm.
It's a very smart idea.
Thank you. Very smart-assed idea. He grinned and wondered whether that scientist had been smart enough to know a little fact that Ewan had learned via YouTube, that ceramics were great for smashing windows. He threw the mug to the floor and picked through its shattered remains. He stuck a promising-looking piece to the butt of his rifle, and after 3 hits from his makeshift gladius, the entire pane of glass shattered. The scary side of the experiment chamber lay open before him, and Ewan engaged in a one-man war against the horrors of military science. He released his first incendiary grenade, which landed at the base of the first metal pillar. It exploded with a furious vomit of fire, which spread across the tiled floor and spilled up the pillar towards its border points. Ewan threw a second grenade at the other pillar, and a third at the collection of metal objects in the corner. They both exploded with equal ferocity, and through squinted eyes, Ewan could see the objects in the pile begin to alter their shapes and then melt. The border points, however, were holding on for longer. With 3 nearby fires burning at over 2,000 degrees Celsius, don't ask me what it is in Fahrenheit, I don't know, but it's big, Ewan's skin prickled with sweat. He turned his rifle the right way round and fired his bullets into the control panel. The gun clicked before he thought it would, and he threw his assault rifle to one side with a snarl. He would have to approach floor B with nothing but his handgun. The experiment chamber was all but destroyed, with 1 incendiary grenade remaining. Ewan's head was turning woozy. The fires around him began to moan and shout. The chamber had no flammable objects inside, but it was drenched in roaring flames regardless as the incendiary grenades burned on their own fuel. The thermite reactions would continue until they got bored of destruction, eating away at their surroundings and choking up the atmosphere. It was time to quit while he was ahead. Ewan staggered towards the door and reached for the handle, just in time to hear the click-clack of a door locking itself. Ewan pulled, but nothing happened. He swiped his stolen keycard and was met with the red LED. He was trapped inside the burning chamber, and the smoke was descending around him. Ewan looked out of the porthole-shaped window. The grinning young assassin on the other side had fiery ginger hair. End of chapter 19.
I do not like this.
Yep, Oliver Roth's back.
No. Okay, are we doing the next chapter?
I don't know. Would you like it?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
I don't think I'll be able to sleep without this.
I will just double check everything's okay in the kitchen. Give me a split second.
Yes, sure.
Yep, all is well. For me, not for Ewan. Oh, no, just
well, hopefully for him soon.
Yeah. I was using the Manx Litfest booklet as a bookmark, and there's me. Wait, other side.
Nice.
There's me. Yay.
That's sorry.
It was such an amazing time. But, okay, so here we go. Okay.
We're doing chapter 20.
Chapter 20. Oliver Roth waved a friendly hand through the porthole window. Then he turned it around and stuck up a middle finger. Ewan did not respond. His brain was split between 2 tasks, searching for an idea that would give him even the slightest chance of survival and outstaring his enemy. He pointed his nastiest expression towards the 14-year-old assassin who had killed 8 of McCormick's army, soon to become 9, and hoped that just for those couple of seconds, Roth would see in Ewan's eyes just how much he hated him. Ewan heard a buzz from the edge of the door. Roth had pressed the security intercom. With no better ideas, Ewan pressed the talk button and let his enemy's voice into the room. "Surprise, retard," said Roth happily. Oh yeah, that's his catchphrase, and I absolutely hate it, but he uses it throughout the whole series. "Long time no see." "Yeah," Ewan snarled into the side of the intercom. "It's been a few weeks. How's your broken nose?" "Good as new. It healed in less than a fortnight." "How's Charlie? Did he get better?" Ewan felt a surge of boiled anger through his arteries. Whether it was his temper or the approaching fires, he couldn't tell. "Oh," said Roth. "Still dead then." "You killed him on his birthday." That is so rude. It is. "You killed him on his birthday." "Who gives a crap?" "Me. And I'm amazed you even remember his name." "Well, yeah," said Roth with an enthusiastic grin pointed through the glass. "I love learning about the people I've killed. Beth Foster, Miles Ashford, Tim Carson, the Rileys, and another 3, including Charlie. You can poke fun at my broken nose until you burn to death in there, but I've caused you more pain than you could ever cause me. Want to open the door and put that to the test?" "No, I'm all right, thanks." Something horrible got into Ewan's throat and sent him into a coughing fit. He had spent the conversation racking his brain for ideas on how to escape a burning room with a locked entrance, and had come up with nothing. Roth was watching his every move. The heat was increasing, the oxygen running low, and Alex was on his way to the nearest stairwell, clueless about Ewan's troubles and too far away to rescue him anyway. "Looks like you took those incendiary grenades from the bio-rifle soldiers," Roth laughed. "Aren't you happy I left them there for you? I figured you'd use them to set up your own death trap." You wanted me to kill a bio-rifle platoon just so I could take their weapons? Well, unless they killed you first. Either way, I'd been happy. Besides, they're just clones. Ewan's eyes, watery from the advancing smoke, gazed at the burning floor of the stone pillars. The powdered remains of clone blood between them, long burned away, had proved Grant and Roth's attitude to their own soldiers. At that moment, Ewan realised that clone was let into the chamber somehow. He didn't smash the glass like I did. There must be a second door somewhere. You all right, Ewan? Not dying on me, are you? Ewan didn't answer. He turned his head, spotted a cupboard with red and white tape, and figured it must have held some emergency equipment. He ran from the entrance, jerked open the cupboard door, and found a gas mask. It wouldn't filter all the smoke, but it was better than nothing. He removed his helmet, rested the mask halfway over his forehead, and returned to the door and pushed the intercom again. I'd love to stay and chat, but I've just had my ears talked off by Marshall. Irritating, isn't he? The worst, except for you. Anyway, I'm heading for the other exit, the one inside the chamber. Feel free to chase me. Oliver Ross's face lost its overconfident grin, and his eyebrows started to rise. Clearly, the thought of a second exit passed over his head too. It'll be locked, he replied. It'll be for nothing. You're going to burn in there. Fine, finished Ewan. Stay here and explain to Grant how you failed to get me again. Bye. At just the right moment, Ewan had remembered how to be manipulative. He secured the gas mask around his face, hoping he could get out the room before it melted to his head, and leapt through the empty pane of the shattered window. Bloody hell! How can one room contain so much heat? Ewan tap danced his way across the experiment chamber, avoiding puddles of burning thermite on the floor, praying his clothes wouldn't catch fire. Even the large melting pile of metal objects, presumably there to test the shield during experiments, had started to emanate its own heat. Ewan slammed himself at the nearest wall, edging around the room in an effort to find a concealed door. He felt woozy, as if drunk, drowning, and burning all at once. He knelt down to search for a rich pool of oxygen. The walls, so white and clean when he had arrived, were covered with enraged reds and oranges. At the top, but creeping down with each second, they were charring black with smoke. Ewan found the second exit. It was locked. He didn't waste his breath on shouting or swearing. Grant must have only built fire escapes for his human staff, not for those on the wrong side of the experiment chamber glass. He was locked in a room on both sides, and he was going to die. Somewhere under the sound of the roaring flames, Ewan heard a buzz. He lifted his head towards the control room and saw Oliver Roth bursting through the entrance. Perhaps he didn't know the second exit was locked, or perhaps he wasn't willing to gamble. Ewan pulled the pin from the final incendiary grenade and launched it through the empty window frame. It bounced off the control panel and landed on the floor beneath Roth's feet. Ewan made it through the window frame and into the chamber just before the grenade went off, releasing a set of fireballs that attacked every remaining computer, console, button, lever, and filing cabinet. Ewan West and Oliver Roth shared the same burning room, and both were unarmed. Unfortunately, Roth had brought a shotgun to the fight. Ewan did not have time to draw out his handgun. Roth's first shot barely missed him as he took shelter behind a large pile of melting test objects. Your choice, Ewan, Roth yelled between coughs. Stay low to the ground and choke slowly, or pop your head up and have your suffering ended by a nice quick gunshot. Ewan did not offer a response. He looked to the floor and found that a bunch of odds and ends had fallen away from the pile before him. Some were everyday objects such as phones and watches, and others were half-kilogram weights made of different metals. Ewan grabbed hold of the nearest weight, ignored the searing heat against his hand, and lobbed it as hard as he could towards Oliver Roth. Roth did not look bothered, not until the weight passed between the two stone pillars. He had not witnessed Ewan switching on the AME shield. The weights detonated against the shield, causing violent red ripples and a fire explosion that threw Roth from his feet. As the assassin fell against the wall, Ewan jumped upright, leaned around the pillars, and shot him 4 times in the chest. As satisfying as it would have been, Ewan did not hang around to watch Roth collapse to the hot ground. He leapt back through the empty window frame, took a running jump over the burning control panel, and tore off his gas mask as he landed in front of the open door. Wheezing, weakened, but alive, Ewan stumbled back into the floor F corridor, slamming the door closed behind him just to be certain. He shot his tired gaze down the corridor and found himself to be safe. There were no clones waiting for him. Oliver Roth had acted alone and lost. There's no way I should still be alive after all that. It's almost enough for me it's almost enough to make me believe in luck. Almost. Okay, pausing here. Right. I like that fight. You've had 2 fight scenes in the same.
Yes, but I'm liking how this is going. So,
thank you.
Wait.
Right. Okay, so we've got 6 pages left of this chapter. So, with surprisingly little guidance from Lorraine and Shannon, Kate had found the lower battlements of Floor L. The corridor looked different to anywhere else she had seen in New London. Her corridor stretched in a straight line as far as her eyes could see, a mile or two at the very least. Most outer city corridors had turns at least once in a while, accounting for the different shaped rooms they passed, but not this one. Kate was fairly sure she could fire a bullet each way down the corridor and hit both the eastern and western citadel walls. Every 100 metres there lay a door on her left, unlabelled and cream-coloured. She picked one at random, took a deep breath, and swiped her latest stolen keycard. There was no buzz. Snipers didn't like to be distracted by sudden noises. She opened the door slowly and silently and found what must have been the smallest type of room in the whole citadel. There was enough space for a small man to lie down on its inbuilt mattress, but little more. At the front end, a square hole in the concrete wall pointed diagonally downward to a widening tunnel to the cool air of the outside. The floor was occupied by a sniper, who lay on his front with both hands wrapped around a rifle that had been fixed in position. When Kate looked at his short mattress, she discovered why Grant could afford to design the room so small. She was looking at half a clone. Its body ended at its waist, with a perfectly formed head, shoulders and arms, and a torso large enough to contain its vital organs. Clearly, Nathaniel Pierce had decided not to waste resources on legs they would never use. The clone model was built for the specific purpose of sniper duty, and the design of their bodies, like the absence of vocal cords, must have made them easier for Grant and Pierce to control. Kate used her childhood gymnastics experience to walk lightly on her toes, ensuring her approach was silent. She almost felt sorry for the half-clone. She could only imagine how long the sniper had laid there, or how his attention span had coped to a continuous, unrelated sniper duty. But nonetheless, this clone would be as determined to kill her as any other. Kate slid her knife from its sheath, held her breath, and bent over the clone on the mattress like a sinister tooth fairy. I like that line. "Guys!" Ewan's voice yelled from her radio. "Good news!" Kate leapt in horror. The clone on his mattress rolled over with panic across his face. He fumbled for the handgun on the belt around his stumped abdomen, but his vision was obscured after hours of having one eye closed and the other through a telescope. Kate fell to the mattress, knife first, and stabbed it into the front of her victim's neck. "Is this important?" she whispered. "I'm busy." The clone's eyes rolled up towards his brain, and Kate watched his face for fading signs of life. She noticed how little she regretted her actions, but even felt anxious about killing a clone from inches away, given the urgency of that night's mission. She was proud and alarmed in equal measure. "2 targets down, 3 to go," Ewan screamed, thankfully after Kate had turned the volume low. "I just destroyed the experiment chamber." "Make that 3 targets down," answered McCormick's voice. "The archive was closer than I thought." "It's gone already?" "Paper burns very quickly. There are no more written records of AME left in existence. Just the backup server to go now, then we can store Marshall's office and put an end to AME forever." "Oh," said Ewan, "and just while we're talking, I killed Oliver Roth." Kate froze in disbelief. "Oliver Roth?" said Alex. "You've got to be kidding. 4 bullets in the torso, then I locked him in a burning room. I'm pretty sure we can go home tonight and declare once and for all that he's dead." Kate felt 2 stone lighter. Somehow, the absence of one teenage monster made the whole citadel feel less frightening. She pushed the dead clone from beneath her and took his spot on the blood-stained mattress. "Wonderful news," answered McCormick, albeit with a humane twinge of guilt. "But I'm afraid he's only bonus points. If the shield goes up, we still lose. It's 20 past 9. "Leave it to me, sir," Kate interrupted. "Go as fast as you can, but don't do anything stupid. You'll have more time than you think." She focused one eye through the sniper's scope. Through the lens of a telescopic sight, the whole world looked different. And not just because of the occasional tremble of focus or the blur around the scope's edges. To the sniper rifle, every detail on the ground looked like something to be inspected rather than seen. She was thankful the wall faced north. The glow of the sunset was on her left rather than in her eye. Plenty of twilight remained. 20 past 9 wasn't so dark in May. But she didn't have long before the awkward part of dusk where it was too dark for plain sight but too bright for night vision. Her search began. She knew exactly what a border point looked like, having seen them up far too close to Oakenfold. A little part of her brain, which had been suffering from enormous anxiety at the moment that memory was made, remembered that each border point had its own miniature shield. Perhaps that meant the loss of any single coordinates would bring down the whole network. Now, without the shields raised, the border points would not be impervious to bullets, or at least Kate hoped not. She found a landmine-shaped lump of metal in the grass within the first 2 minutes of her search. She fired a bullet straight into it, and in the dim light, she saw a glimmer of metal somersaulting through the evening air like a tossed pancake. Kate smiled. It had been her first smile since the day she and Raj had watched the missiles over New London. Maybe, just for tonight, she was going to be okay. The border point had landed the right way up, but the LED was blank. It was out of action. In 10 minutes' time, Grant would push the magic button to a fanfare in his head and be sorely disappointed. It could take hours for that point to be located and replaced. Ewan, she said to the radio, you can scrap the time limit. I don't know how long we've got, but it's more than 10 minutes now. Prove it. I just shot a border point with a good quality sniper rifle. The shield won't activate unless every link in the chain is working. We've got loads of time before they replace it. Ewan didn't answer, suggesting he was satisfied. Lovely, answered McCormick. I'm almost at the HPFC. Don't bother chasing me, Kate. I'll be done by the time you get here. Kate snarled. McCormick was most likely right, and there was no point denying it. Fine, you do that, she whispered. When I'm done here, I'll meet the others on floor F and we'll head upstairs together. That okay, boys? No, without me, you won't, McCormick butted in before Ewan or Alex could answer. Stuff that, she thought. If I can't put myself at risk for you, I'm not letting you do the same for us. Sorry, sir. We'll be far above you, she answered. We can't afford to hang around for you to catch up and then spend another half an hour waiting for you to recover. When you're done with the backup server, find a safe place to hide and we'll meet you on the way down. You're trying to keep me safe. That's not what I'm doing here. Sorry, sir, came Ewan's voice, but Kate's right. And we're not just being protective. We literally can't wait for you. Just trust us to do the right thing while we're up there. Oh, I know you do the right thing. I know you'll do the right thing, answered McCormick with misery in his voice. That I don't doubt. His feelings were clear without the need to see his face. The mission had been his first direct action against Grant since before Christmas. He had endured Lorraine's ugly surgery to earn the right to take part, risked his life on a gamble in the vehicle port, and exhausted himself with the stairwell, only to be denied the opportunity to see it through to the end. The final showdown would involve the other members of his family, the adopted sons and daughter, but not the father. It almost made Kate feel guilty, but she knew better. Good luck down there, sir, she finished. We'll be in touch. And final scene of the evening. Oliver Roth's keycard still worked against the experiment chamber exit. He took a long breath of fresh air and tore the Kevlar away from his chest, moments before the thermite fire chewed its way into his skin. Be honest, did you actually think Oliver Roth was dead?
I didn't think so. I thought it was too good to be true.
Yeah, I've only met one person who actually thought that he was dead. The thing is, one thing that really irritates me in stories is when a character dies and then suddenly they come back and they're completely fine, which it can work if you do it once and if you do it well. But I don't know, there's a couple of TV shows that I've watched where they bring back dead characters all the time. And what that basically means is that when a character dies, I've stopped believing that they're actually dead. And I'm trying to remember. I think there's only one case in Underdogs where I would do that, and it's just them. Unless he counts the gunshot inside New London, where Kate hears it from half a mile away, and you're just supposed to assume that Ewan got shot, even though you kind of know that he didn't. I've not seen EastEnders, Steph, so I've don't know. I can't really comment on that, but yeah, that is one thing that really annoys me. I'm supposed to believe this person's dead. And the thing is, Oliver Roth is such a major antagonist that he's clearly not going to die 2/3 of the way through book 2. So I decided when writing it, I'm not going to insult the reader here by building up this whole glorious death and things, only for later in the chapter for him to be alive. And well, he's not necessarily well, but he's alive. I thought to just do it in the bluntest way possible. He reached out, fired 4 bullets into his chest, and ran away. And that's the supposed death scene. It's kind of my way of telling the reader that, yeah, you know he's not dead. I know he's not dead. Just go with it. Anyway, it's years later. I don't know who Kathy and Cindy are, but yeah, that's almost the equivalent of Bobby from Dallas reappearing in the shower after. For any non-Americans watching this, the TV soap Dallas killed off the most popular character, and then the next season was so unpopular that they rewrote it and they ended it with a character waking up like she'd just been dreaming and discovering Bobby coming out of the shower. I'm like, well, you won't believe the dream I just had. It really was as cheesy
Oh,
as it.
I've been doing a lot of online tutoring lately. So, and then there's
Mm,
this English language book, and I was teaching the kids how to write creative writing stuff, right?
mm.
There was this one tiny line that said a sentence that said, "Never write a book that says at the end that it was all a dream," because
Oh,
that's like the worst possible
yeah,
ending.
exactly. Mm. Okay. Oliver Roth's keycard still worked against the experiment chamber exit. He took a long breath of fresh air and tore the Kevlar away from his chest, moments before the thermite fire chewed its way to his skin. He staggered into the floor-left corridor and collapsed from physical exhaustion, crying tears of real pain. Stripping to his bare chest and crawling on all fours, he reached a fire extinguisher outside the neighbouring room and sprayed its water all over himself in an effort to remove the heat from its body. I was so stupid. If he'd got me in the head or the neck, I'd be dead. Why did I even follow him in there when he was almost certain to die? Would the other exit even have worked? Roth lay topless on the cool tiled floor, looking down at the burn marks that were forming across his muscular frame. The thermite itself may not have touched his skin, but the heat alone had been damaging enough. There'd be ugly, misshapen scars across his chest for the rest of his life. As the minutes passed, the throbbing began to fade, but his tears did not. Oliver Roth came to realise that he was no longer crying through physical pain, but through emotion. It was a level he had not sunk to since he was a young child, and he felt ashamed of himself, lying half naked on a corridor floor with burn marks that even a whole fire extinguisher could not sort out, crying because an older boy had outwitted him. Roth wondered what his bosses would have thought if they could see him at that moment. At least I had enough common sense to wear the Kevlar. As he spread his twitching arms and legs, his tired brain came to realise the unspoken benefits of a bulletproof vest. It hadn't just saved his life. It had given Ewan every reason to think he was dead, and no doubt he will be showing off to his pathetic teammates. Oliver, barked a voice on the other side of his radio. Roth looked down, surprised. Other than a few melted parts to its casing, his radio was undamaged. He sat himself upright and took some time before answering. Ian Marshall could wait until he had steadied himself. Oliver! Roth wiped his tears from his eyes and breathed slowly enough for the wobbling to vanish from his voice. Yeah? You sound miserable. Did your trap work? The tears almost returned, but he fought them off. No, and the experiment chamber? Up in smoke. But on the plus side, going by Marshall's yells, which Roth didn't bother listening to, he was not in the mood for silver linings. On the plus side, Roth said once Marshall had finished yelling, the rebels think I'm dead. Ewan ran off thinking he killed me. Sorry, sir, got to go. Roth switched off the radio before his voice crumbled, and he collapsed to the floor again. The redness in his torso had not faded, but it had started to feel numb. He wasn't sure whether that was good or bad. I'm pretty sure that's bad because it means your nerves have been damaged. Either way, Oliver Roth relaxed his muscles and smiled through his own tears. Missing, presumed dead, was a powerful position to be in. End of chapter 20.
That was a powerful ending.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to need to stop there. Chapter 21 is actually one of my favourites in the book. One of my favourites in the book, and I'm giving you absolutely no further details about it.
Okay, so we definitely need to have a session next month.
Oh yes.
So no spoilers at all.
Nope. And I think you know everything you need to know right now. I don't think the experience will be enhanced by me giving away additional. Well, I can tell you who the point of view character is if you want. In fact, yeah, I'll tell you in 5 seconds, but I'll be covering my mouth. So in 5 seconds, I'll tell you that it is an Alex chapter.
Okay.
There you go.
Got it.
Yeah, so...
Should be really interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, 4 chapters in one night. I think we've not done that since the showdown to book 1. And we'll probably have to do it again for the showdown for book 2 because I'd have to check through chapter endings and things, but I'm pretty sure that it's another case of definitely read the last 4 chapters, don't just leave it for 2. So we might only have 2 or 3 more of these readings and then we finish book 2.
It makes me happy, but also a little sad. I think we have another book coming, so that's fine.
We've got 2 more books. We're on book 2 out of 4.
Perfect. Even better. So great.
Nice.
Well, let's see if anybody has any questions. Steph, do you have any questions?
Nice. Yes, all this cube while waiting just in case I was asking something. Oh, there it is. And I've been slow with this all day. I think my fingers are just exhausted. And my sense of balance is terrible.
No questions, Your Honor. There's no questions, Your Honor. Perfect.
Cool. Okay, right. Well, thank you again. See you next month.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yes, see you
Bye.
next month. Perfect. Take care,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.